public, as you well know. This is Parents Breakfast. Hi. I got a special kind of food today. I have been planning on doing for a while now, and it is very much a traditional kind of West Indian mix in a way. Give you a little bit of that, a little bit of that. So I got kind of a jalapenos and platanos, plantains, kind of roast, if you will. And then I have some fake chicken, veggie chicken, as it is known to others who are less ridiculous than I am. And a like a aioli that my wife helped me make, which is actually pretty good. So I hope you're well. I'm doing pretty good. I'm tired and I'm sore. We moved a lot of stuff out of the condo last night, so it's been a little bit of a kind of a stiff morning, but it'll be all right. I hope this is a shelf I made a while back. I took from my old studio, so I gotta hang this up at some point in time. But I'm worried if I leave it there, I'm going to scratch my switch at some point. Yeah, how's everybody doing? Honestly, it's good to see you. I hope you're well. I don't know if I already said that. This is this weird little thing I found years ago. It does not work, which is always fun to see. It's supposed to be like a shortcut thing, but it's like a little shortcut keyboard type of thing, and had like a slider and little buttons, and I changed them out to sushi ones because I thought it was fun. Because I bought it and it doesn't work. So one of those great things you find out about the internet when you buy something and it looks cool, it is not guaranteed to do all of the things that you think it should do. So, yeah. Here's what it is. Gotta mute this guy. There we go. So, let's eat, The funny thing about plantains are you have to kind of eat them while they're hot. Once they get cold, it's okay. Hey, how's it going? Shelby. I got it. Shelby? Yeah, Shelby. How are you? What's going on? I was having this discussion with my family this morning while I was making food about these museums. There we go. It's better. About museums and like artwork and stuff. Because I'm in like a little art group for a bunch of artists, a bunch of old artists basically. We were having this discussion a couple of days ago about how a lot of these museums, the traditional way that artists used to show their art was you would get in a museum, and that's how anybody would ever see your work. Nowadays, we have social media, we have, I'm gonna face you a little more. This thing's been trying to attack me like Captain Hook for a while now. So nowadays we have social media, we have little shows you can have in regular places, etc. So we make it a point to just kind of show our work the way we did. But once upon a time, in order to show your work, you had to go through certain channels. And that would be mostly museums and like galleries and stuff. So, hey, Goat, how's it going? And so, there's a lot of work that is in museums historically that they didn't really pay for. It was just kind of stuff that people left. Are you here, bumming monkey, too? I don't know what that means. Oh, Joe. Hey, Joe. Oh, at Joe. That's an interesting name. I didn't see that one. So, the channel mug. Um, so there's been a lot of artwork that's been returned to countries that of its origin because it was kind of just taken. It wasn't really given. Wasn't given by the artist. It wasn't given by the country. And so one of the artists was trying to say, people say this and everything, but like no country was ever built, no culture was ever built, no country was ever built without conquering other people. And a friend of mine who went to art school, who was a art history major, explained that's not an actually true statement. It's a thing that a lot of people say, but it's not it's not true. There's no historical proof to go with that. There are a lot of groups of people who just kind of merged after a certain point. And like people can say, "Oh, well, that's the same thing as conquering," but it's not. Like conquering typically means war. You know what I mean? Like war and killing and people being taken over and etc. There's not a two tribes merging together to survive because they needed resources or labor or all these other things, or just the fact that they didn't want to be ancestral type of things, are what made a lot of things this way. So the concept that everything, that all these museums, that the reason why everybody's been conquered, so no one should complain about ever being conquered and how they lost things and etc. Not everybody was conquered. It's not true. Let me see. Matt says my wife thinks she's a chicken, but I can't take her to the psychiatrist because I need the eggs. Wow, that is that is a thing. All right, Matt's working on his type 5. Good for Matt. This is actually really good. I'm kind of surprised. Like I definitely have recipes written down and up here that I want to do, but there are many mornings where I wake up and I'm honestly not sure what I'm going to do as far as food goes. So it's nice when something comes to me and I'm like, oh, this is nice. This is actually pretty good. To point out the elephant in the room, yes, I have been working on a giant painting. If you came to my live stream on the weekend, you would see me paint this thing, actually. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now. I'm playing with a lot of ink washes to try and see what I can do with it, where it's going to go. I feel pretty happy about it right now. I think I'm definitely going to have to do some washes. Because I want to bring it all down to make it darker all over. So the problem I run across with that is I have these giant brushes that I use, but I don't have giant ways to. But I don't have giant ways to get ink and water on them. So it's kind of one of those aspects where some of the tools are functional and some of the tools are fictional. Because I definitely have these like dreams of doing things in a certain way with art. And then much like the shelf, I kind of just have to make something. So now I gotta figure out what I gotta make. Like how do you put together something that's kind of small-ish, portable. It's really a small bucket is all it is, but it's a question of whether I want to buy something or whether I want to make something. And then it's got to be something that I can, you know, essentially accidentally dye with black ink. Because most things you have, they're already purposed. Ink is one of those things where, like, if you do it, you then have to figure out if this is just allocated to be this one thing, or whether you're going to go to, like, these huge great lengths to try and clean these things to the very the very specific kind of way you need them to do. Because the last thing you need to do is have like a bucket that you've accidentally dyed the inside black, and you add water to it and cleaning supplies and all that stuff, and you forget, and you try and use it to clean something else, and then you just basically spread ink all over random surfaces. Which, I guess if I was the only one using it, then I could probably just make amends with it. Be like, well, I screwed that up. Oh well. But it's not only my mistake. Or I'm not the only one who gets punished for making a mistake. So, I think kind of mindfulness is like really good for you. Let me see. The book that I'm currently reading right now is by Arthur Nasessen. And I read 2 of his books already. One's called The Fuck Up, the other's called Chinese Takeout. This is his 3rd book called Unlubricated. Yeah. It's a crazy book, honestly. But all his books are crazy. So I like that about them. I just finished Silo. It was really good. This is actually a pretty small book considering. It's only like 350 something pages. So, like Silo was around like 600. So, and I did that in a couple of weeks. So, and I also have an Audible app. Not Audible, but I have like an audiobook app. So, in between reading it, I can always kind of put it on while I'm working on this or doing whatever. I think a lot of being an artist and like working at it, doing all this stuff is kind of about the aspect of like you have to figure out how to do a lot of things at once. So a lot of the artworks that I do require me to think about how's this gonna how's this gonna come together. You know, it's just kind of basic things. Producer Moch is like hard grilling me right now, and I'm not appreciative of it. I don't like it. I don't like it. Elephant. That looks like a crocodile to me. Oh, Alec Blake. You sneaky, sly, gorgeous fox. It's an alligator. So boom. Boom on you. Never recover. So mad. Super roasted. There we go. No. That's really funny, actually. It does look like an alligator. It does look like a crocodile.
I didn't study the jaw enough to know, but you separated the toes, and crocodiles have separate toes.
Well, I have to fix the toes. The toes are not are not anything.
Well, crocodiles don't have separate toes, or alligators don't have separate toes. That's why I took a leap.
We also don't have human fingernails either, so there's that.
I don't know. When was the last time you looked?
This morning.
At alligator?
Mm-hmm.
Hilarious.
So reptiles have claws. They don't have like human fingernails. I know we all like to think of like Gunther from like the first Gunther from Adventure Time because he had fingers, but most do not. So there's that. But it's just fun, you know. I think most of this stuff is really just meant to be fun, anyways. So I'm not worried so much about exactness. Exact things are kind of one of those you beat yourself up trying to be perfect. And most art is abstract anyways. Like even if you think you're doing everything specific and perfect and whatnot, like there's always a little something that's more artist perspective than anything else. Putting different hues that people put as undertones is always kind of one of those things. Some people don't have those exact hues, so boom, roasted. No, you just figure out how to do stuff. I mean, it's part of the art. You have to kind of flex on what you think is going to do and make sense and work. So today we're going to look at this sketchbook. So from this one, I could tell it was back in it's probably about maybe 4 years ago when I did this one. Partially because I could tell because the coffee stains on it, but also the shapes and stuff. So back in the day, I had an obsession making a crown skeleton with one amputized arm. That was like my big thing. I kept drawing over and over and over again. And then I started doing kind of like popsicles with human eyes and stuff like that. It's a weird choice, I know, but it's what I love to do. This one has actually been pretty famous recently. I made a shirt as well as I made a shirt with a logo like this on the back, and also my kneecap is actually tattooed with it. I'm not gonna show you my ashy knee though. I gotta be honest. Like it's not happening today. But it just trust me, it's there. I have a huge kneecap tattoo. It was very painful, and I'm amazing for having it. So there you go. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of got into this whole cluster thing where I was making just kind of random stuff, but I was always trying to put it all together. Also another mark of a painter, you got ink under your fingernails and stuff. Like you try to wash it out, but it's a little more difficult. I'm always trying to like make. I think like my wife and I said it years ago, and I've heard a lot of artists recently kind of repeat it. Sketchbooks are not meant to be. I don't know what that is, but it kind of looks like a dick, and I'm sorry. But it's kind of that thing where you have to realize, like your sketchbooks are meant to. I was doing this. Okay, so with this story, I was doing this story of like this little black girl in her neighborhood who wanted to be in the Girl Scouts, but there were no Girl Scouts around. So she decided she was going to start her own faction of the Girl Scouts. And her abuela, so she's Afro-Latino, and her abuela is in a coma in the hospital, and she meets this giant woman with a head made of fire, and a bird skeleton. Wait with me now. And they kind of have like this conversation of, if you could give up anything to make your grandmother young and whatnot, like what would you do? And they have these 3 discussions basically, where the little girl tries to tell her, she's like, I'll tell you 3 stories, and if I can wow you at any point, you'll have to let my grandmother go. And like the spirit of death that I have in this basically kind of listens to her 3 stories and then decides if they're going to let their grandmother live an extra day or anything of that nature. And it's just kind of one of those. It's an interesting little story, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to make it into like a graphic novel or whether I was going to make it into like a children's book or something of that nature. For those who don't know, they are significantly smaller than one another. One is very big, one is very small. I became kind of obsessed a couple years back with. I've never really liked Pac-Man per se. I don't dislike Pac-Man, but I've never been like a big Pac-Man person. And so I became kind of obsessed recently in the last couple of years with Pac-Man arcades. Like I just think visually they're very interesting, so I kept drawing them. And then I was like, well, I should draw one in my style and see what I can do with that. And also, I came up with like a weird little idea of kind of like a pinup T-shirt that I thought I was gonna do, but I don't think I ever did. I did come up with one that was kind of neat, which was like a regular white shirt, but it had like a fake pocket square, like pocket front pocket, not pocket square, and then the image of the person was kind of poking out of it. It was kind of interesting actually. I don't have the shirt up anymore because it just didn't sell. So rather than to keep it up there forever and make it something that people had to kind of look through, I decided I was going to just kind of move on from it. So that's what I did. But to give you an idea what the arcade kind of looked like, the cabinet, it's kind of like one of those. It was fun though. I like the idea of it. I like the idea behind it. I don't know what I'll do with it ever, if ever I will do anything with it. Maybe it'll be some weird show when I'm super crazy art famous and I can get like a blank cabinet for an art thing, and then I'll do like a vinyl. Oh, either I'll hand paint or I'll vinyl over the cabinet, and maybe I'll put decals. I'm really kind of fleshing this out as I'm saying. Um, I'll put decals on the glass so it does that, and then maybe we'll hollow it out and put like a light box so that it's just you see like the image of it on there. Because I'm not going to learn how to design a video game for. Maybe I'll be like Comment Rosette. Maybe someone will pay me to design a video game for them, and that'll be how that comes about. A lot of this is in Portuguese, I'm realizing, so it's not going to make sense to those who don't read Portuguese. In whatever grammar I was working with at the time, there's always a possibility like you translate like a child, so you just kind of accept it. But I like these. These are fun. I love kind of looking back at some of this stuff and seeing how weird it was and how kind of like funky and strange and etc. All these little pieces and parts and everything come about. If anybody ever uses my work to do a tattoo or anything, just let me know. I don't really want anything from you. I mean, if you want to donate $1, that'd be cool. But I just like to see them. Honestly, I think they're fun. I think it's fun and kind of cool to see how that works. I remember in college I did design a few tattoos for people, so I can do those also. But keep in mind that your tattoo artist is going to do whatever they want. So I was into printmaking a really long time, and so I started kind of making prints and doing stuff like that. And then I was always I've always been like a juggler of a lot of different art at the same time. So there's a lot of different styles sometimes going on depending on what I'm working on. I found this I found this Marvin Gaye stamp years ago, and it just really kind of intrigued me. And then I also wanted to start my own artist collective channel on YouTube years ago. And I liked some of the ideas, and then I thought about them and they didn't work. They work on the context of not knowing the history of certain things, but then they didn't work beyond that. Most things are ruined by racism. That's all I can say. So the channel names I'd come up with at one point in time were POC Artist Club, POC Collective, People of the Sun Collective. That one I liked. Brown Paper Collective, which the more I thought about it, the more it didn't work because of the brown paper bag test was something they did to look at people of color and if they were a certain if they were lighter than the bag, they were not considered. They were in South Africa with apartheid. They would decide their race via holding up a paper bag up to their face. And so the more I thought about the brown paper collective, although a lot of us carry stuff in little brown paper bags, I didn't want the connotation. Um, Team Paintbrush, they're not going. This is not the most creative one. Cold Press Collective, because we're all coffee addicts, you know, type of things. But they were interesting. I mean, I couldn't really getting artists together to do like projects sometimes is like herding cats in a lot of ways. And I have two cats and they don't listen to me at all. So that should give you kind of perspective on that. So I would just kind of try to figure out how to get artists together. Like I'm still trying to get the gallery crawl that we want to do where we go to the Smithsonian's on a Monday or Sunday or something. And we just, me and a bunch of artists, and then we just film and we blog and we put everything up and we do like a field trip once a year and I'll get everybody t-shirts so we can do stuff like that. And you know, it's still up in the air. We're still going to do it. It's just a question of how many years it's going to take. I want to get Alec, my wife. I want to get me. I want to get obviously us two. I want to get Kat, who's in Pittsburgh. I want to get probably like three other people. Maybe Kelly, who's a friend of mine, who's a really good painter and a professional artist. And maybe like two other artists. Maybe some two younger artists would be really cool. So, yeah, you know, get it all together. It's just a question of how and when and where. And then at this point, I'm doing like collages because I don't know if I ran out of an idea or it just kind of hit me. Sometimes I do some of this stuff and it's not even that I'm like not sure what I want to do. It's just it comes in and I'm like, this is a really good idea. I should really put this down. I typically walk around with one of these on me. I've gotten bad about it recently because I've been putting them in like a book bag when I walk, and I used to just put them in my pocket, but it's kind of difficult, so I stopped. And I just make stuff all the time. Didn't matter where I was, pop a squat, draw for like 40 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, and then just kind of go. I had this little paper bag full of scrap paper, and I had a glue stick, and I would just go crazy, and a pen, like a straight line, like a 3, and then I would just kind of do stuff like that. I really love this book. Like I thought this was a really cool book, and it's just a basic, like, I don't even think this is like an all-purpose. I think this is like regular paper, regular sketchbook paper. It's not cold press, which is like my preferred ones, but those are kind of expensive, so I'm trying to get out of going crazy on some of these. I have so much extra paper also that I've thought about maybe just putting some sketchbooks together by hand, but then I'm like, I'm lazy and I don't want to do that, so that's how I worked out. My theory was I was going to take all these little crazy doodles and then that would just be like my whole tattoo for my right arm, which I might still do, but my silliness is obscure. So Astrocorn was this children's book character that I wanted to make, where this little girl thinks she is a astronaut in her bedroom, and so she animates all these toys and like her old socks and all these things around her, and she has like these weird conversations and just stuff. She imagines like even like her parents coming to her door to ask her who she's talking to are these like very intricate kind of crazy things. Her bed, her mirror, her sisters, her everything. It was kind of fun, honestly. I wish I had followed through with it. I probably will at some point in time. I think the weird thing about like art is you can always come back with it. She doesn't like her sandwiches, and so she imagines her sandwiches to be these carnivorous frogs that want to bite her while she's trying to bite into them. So she won't. She won't. She picks them up with her thumbs and goes, "I can't eat this. This is insane." She has a scarf that's her best friend, and she puts googly eyes on it. It's a fun little idea. I think she imagines herself grown up, like her big sister and her sister's friends, and what it's gonna be like to have like money and experiences and be able to go places and do stuff. She only really knows what she knows while she knows it, so she has nothing. So it's all just kind of like I'm gonna be tall and I'm gonna play with my blocks, type of thing. But it's just interesting. I don't know. I think sometimes like as artists we have to figure out a way to be creative and weird and fun and funky and all this stuff and just go forward with it. There's so many intricate little weird things that we do that are meant to be fun and meant to be silly and meant to be cans of sardines and meant to be band-aids and toothpicks and dice and dominoes and light bulbs and etc. Like we're not meant to be simple. I guess it's kind of the main thing. Like everything is complex. From your genetic makeup to your from your I was making fun of some random kids that I knew. So I drew them very and kind of embarrassing. Because if you can't weaponize your talent, what are you doing, honestly? Um, and then you just kind of go, you know. There's a freedom and creativity that you just don't see beyond anything else. And so it's to me it's like super important that you allow yourself to be creative and do creative things and have a great time and repurpose stickers you find and put them in your sketchbooks and washi tape and all this stuff. Like it's all just very wild and important and silly and nonchalant and ridiculous, and it's here so that you can just kind of be the artist that you want to be, you know? And that will change periodically for what that actually means. And so you just go for it. Most of the art that I do, I have made it a point. Also, when you come to the end of a sketchbook, if you can't figure out what to do, just scribble on it. Don't freak out and not do anything for weeks. Just scribble on it. Sometimes I have to write people's addresses. I write like little quotes. I do all types of stuff. And this is like one of like 12 that I have in there. And it's just stuff like that. Like you have to kind of allow yourself to, I really have not been eating this. You really have to just kind of figure out how to keep making. You don't have to worry so much about what you're making. Not all the time. You're almost leaving like clues for yourself later on. So in a way, you're like a time traveler. You're making your sketchbooks are like little clues for yourself to kind of work towards later. Once you're able to go back and look at them. I know a lot of people don't necessarily always go back to what their sketchbooks are initially. And that's okay. Like I said, I want to say those are like pre-pandemic sketchbooks. So they're at least 5 years old. And I go back and I look at them and I'm like, man, that's so good. I wish I had done something with that. And then I remember, I still can. So today's big thing is I have to print out well, I think I'm probably just gonna open it up as a PDF. I have a contract for an art exhibit that I'm going to be in till May in the city of Gaithersburg, Maryland. So I got to do that today, send it back. Then I got to make frames, or I have to modify frames so that I can use them. Then from there, I have to go to our old condo and pick up a couple of things, which shouldn't be difficult. There's not very much left for us to do there. My body is a little sore though, but I think I'll be okay. I mean, the big plans are kind of little plans. Sometime this week, I have to write a letter to my Patreon because I have a level on my Patreon that's a pen pal, and because everything was going on so much in the last couple of weeks, I owe them 2 letters because I didn't write them anything in January. But to be fair, they didn't write me either. Greetings, Naruto. How are you, brother? So that's my big plan this week. I'm just trying to figure it all out. What I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it. And then possibly, Sunday, we're going to go see my dad. So that should be interesting. For its own purposes. So for those who don't know, my father has kidney failure. So where he was once kind of this guy who could run around a lot, he's a lot more kind of demure now, more laid back, and it's definitely done things to his health a little bit. Probably more than a little bit, but so when I have the ability to go see him, I typically do. But like the rest of you, I work all the time, so it's kind of difficult to do anything. But you make do, you know? Such a downer moment to stop on. No, but I don't know. With art, I feel like art is one of those things where it was always like my respite, my moment where I could just kind of sit and relax and be as true to myself as possible. So that's what I'm trying to do, really, for the most part. I don't have any small ones. Alright. Very thin one. Because I have a tendency to take these out. I don't remember what is in this. So we're all going to see together. So at this point in time, I think I was more working on like little details. So like you'll notice like the hair and stuff like that. And then you'll see that skeleton guy with the one arm. I had this idea that he was like this parallel being. A lot of my work has storylines to it in my head. So he was this parallel being that existed as this man who had lost a limb, lost an arm, who was on vacation with his lover, and they were listening to the radio, and as the radio was going, they're flickering through, and there is a boxing match that is going on that they're picking up that is happening a universal way with characters they've never heard of, with weird things they're doing they've never experienced. And as that's happening, he's also in another universe at the same time, this skeleton king who's traversing like a dead the land of the dead. And he runs across like a queen, and there's like a big bridge, and there's all this stuff. There's a lot of stuff that went into it. You just have to kind of just go with it. I was taking a class on how to kind of do stuff with tapes, I guess glues, in a way, to kind of block off, make like crystals, basically, how to paint crystals, because I'd never really tried to paint them. And it just kind of became these interesting little weird things that I was doing. And so, I think it's all. Yeah, because I pulled out all the other ones. So that's all you get. Yeah, but you know, it's. I'll give you one more, and then I'll let you go. Because I know you got things to do. Because you're super busy and cooler than I am. So I really don't know what this is because there's nothing on the front of it. Oh wow. Okay. Well, this is very good. I'm impressed by this. I find it funny when like you find your old art and you're like, oh man, that kid had an idea. And you're like, that kid's me. So I was not afraid to use colors. I am famously not afraid to use colors. I think this is where the wrestling thing is coming from, actually. Now look at it. And I don't know, I've always loved comics, and I've always loved kind of making art that was just kind of my own weird thing. So that's kind of what I did forever, and a long time, forever. And so I have held you captive long enough. We're almost at the 45-minute mark. So thank you to everybody who's watched the show, who's joined me, who's had a good time with the questions and the fun bits and all that stuff. It's always good to see you. I hope you have a great breakfast. If you get a chance, join the Patreon. There's lots of fun stuff that goes on there. A lot of exclusive work that doesn't show up other places. So you should join. There's the Painter Files podcast. There's the 24 shots. There's all the work all the photos and conversations that happen about the artwork as it's getting made outside of YouTube. Yeah. And also with YouTube, please subscribe, like, comment, share, do all that cool stuff. I'm really trying to build this channel up. I think we are 5 away from 400 subscribers. 5. And that's crazy. We were so away from 100 subscribers at one point in time. So yeah, I'd love to get into the thousands, but I will take 5. 5 is fine. 5 at a time is more than enough. So yeah, I hope you're well. I hope everything works out, like I said. And be kind to yourselves. I guess the last bit of things I will put in here is you are you, regardless of how many orange Mussolini wannabes try and tell you otherwise. Like, you exist, you're beautiful, you're wonderful. You, much like the rest of us, like we grew up kind of freaks in a lot of ways with the stuff that we tried to get into and work on. And being acknowledged by shitty people doesn't make you any better at who you are. You're just who you are. So for all those having a hard time right now, know that you're not alone. We're all in this together. And I will see you at this painter time, at this painter place next week. Saturday, I will probably do another live painting where I'm working on this guy. So you're welcome to join me. It'll be late at night because I only work most of the time late at night. because I guess that's when the crazy comes out and wants to go on a canvas. Yeah. So, love you, mean it. Hit her out. Ciao.